Welcome to Life Activated. I'm Mari Roberts, corporate gal gone rad energy healer and psychic guide. The intention of this podcast is to be a supportive space that empowers you to live your passions now, encouraging you to be uniquely you and to trust your intuition. On this podcast, you're going to hear from guests who are just like you. The difference is they figured out how to bring their passions into their life. To find out more, please visit me at marirobertslife.com. Hello. Oh my goodness. I cannot believe it. Today is a really special day because I was able to get this interview in before this person goes out on leave. And this is like major. I would love to welcome to the show today, Michelle Pellizzon Lipitz. This is like OMG, people. I just want to make sure you understand how excited I am about our guest today. Before I get carried away, because I am going to get carried away, I'm going to hand it over to Michelle. And Michelle, I know that you know this so well because you have two amazing podcasts and you are like the hostess with the mostest in terms of your teaching and education. So when you introduce yourself, I'm just going to ask that you also share any of your other indicators that will help people know more about you from, you know, the witchy woo aspects as well. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. What a wonderful intro. I'm Michelle Pellizzon Lipitz, and most importantly, Pisces Sun, Cancer Rising, Scorpio Moon.
Hello. Yes.
Yes. And projector in human design, Enneagram 4, INFJ, born in the year of the snake in Chinese astrology. And I'm the head witch in charge at Holisticism. And at Holisticism, we do a lot of stuff, but mostly what we do is try to make wellness and well-being more accessible to more people. And one of the ways that we do that is by helping business owners, intuitive business owners, grow and shape their businesses so they can help more people and reach more people and do more good in the world. So that's kind of the long and short of it.
I think that is amazing. I did not know that you were an Enneagram 4. Interesting. I'm a 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Love a 9. Love a 9.
Oh, cool.
4s are just like, they're very self-centered. I love a fellow 4, but you know, we're very like, oh my God, my emotions, my feelings, like everything's so intense for me. We kind of need to like pull ourselves out of our own butts and look out into the world and, you know, use our sensitivity for good as opposed to evil.
I'm already feeling like a ton of energy right now. So I'm feeling like my little psychic-y energy. It's super funny. I get like, this like pulsing feeling in the back of my head. So I was like, I'm feeling lots of energy. So there's a few things before we get, well, there's so many things. Oh my goodness. Before we dive into this, though, there's a couple things I do want to call out. You are one of the first people, well, I've heard it from a lot of people, but like one of the first people that really called out, like, Mari, you've got to do a podcast, because I was a member of Holisticism in my early days of joining Holisticism. One of the perks, I don't know, do you still do that perk with the Akashic Records reading?
No. You can't, like, it's impossible to book an Akashic Records reading with me.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. To see you, like, I'm so lucky. Hello. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I was one of those lucky people. So this is an offering that Michelle used to have. You have so many members though. I don't even know how you could do it though.
It would be, I mean, and I think at that time I was doing it with maybe IWA, and I probably did like 300 readings. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it was IWA. I think it was in IWA. Yeah, that's what it was. IWA first. That was what it was. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so I had a reading with you, and one of the first messages was, you need to get your voice out there on a large scale. You need to do a podcast. And I just was like, I hear that message. I don't know what to talk about. So this is years ago, like pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
I think it was like It was definitely pre-pandemic, and I want to say,
yeah, I think it was the fall before the pandemic, like 2019 fall, winter.
Yes. And I want to share that for a couple of reasons. One, sometimes, we are getting those nudges or information or callings to do something. And we may even know in our hearts that it's time to do something. Like I'm getting even a little emotional to even share that, but like it takes time to sometimes allow that seed to grow, to be ready to even like share. Because even at that time, I didn't even know what I would talk about. And yes, I could have done a podcast then, but I don't know if I would have been actually like as ready as I needed to be.
Mm-hmm. And I bet you approached it from a different perspective, knowing that it was your voice needed to be heard as opposed to like, oh, I just need to make content. I think that we can feel like, this is just like whatever, brushing my teeth or something, like some process I need to go through in order to like fulfill or do my job or market myself or whatever it is. And you go into with a way different intention where you're like, no, like someone is out there is telling me that like, this is an important tool for my self-actualization too. It's sometimes worth sitting on for a little longer, like letting it percolate and brew as opposed to like rushing it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I just got this other thing that came in my brain that I remember telling other people this as a message that I got once, which was, I think within a meditation or I was in a healing session myself, was like basically time is, this illusion and, basically my fast can be somebody else's slow. And it was way more eloquent when it came in at the time that it came in. But, fast is slow depending on it's fast is slow depending on what dimension you're in.
Yeah. And time is like this fake thing that we as humans have made up. Like we know that a minute is not really like, it's whatever, a defined period of time, right? But like 1 minute doesn't feel like 60 seconds from 1 minute to the next. It doesn't feel congruent, right?
Right.
When you really have to pee, a minute feels so much longer. Versus when you're like laughing with your best friend, the minute flies by. Like time is mutable, and we just kind of like, we're all faking it, pretending like it matters and like it's something that we can measure and that's the same, but it really isn't.
No. Yes, totally. Yes. Oh, I love it. Okay. The other thing before we really dive into all my questions for you is I have been on this thing of pulling a card. It came with the first episode, so I'm going to stick with it, of pulling. It was the first guest episode, actually, with Amanda Chase. And so I'm going to stick with it. I know. And it's same deck, Asia to Shore. It's her Guided by Spirit. Yeah. I don't even know why I never remember the name. And I pulled the card before, but I'll get the message. But the card is the Wisdom card.
All these cards are so beautiful.
I know. And just how she does things with her husband, I think that's always really cool because her husband's this artist. And then like
dream team.
Yeah.
Really.
So, because if you don't know, her husband's an artist and she basically channels and he then interprets for her. So she's working right in this process with her husband to create this art. Anyway, let's connect to the message. So just let me have a second here. Wisdom. And so when I connect to the message, it's for you, but I also think about it, it's for me and anyone else who's listening and really at any point in time. I heard, share your message. So to me, this is so fitting because of where you are in life right now. Like you're coming into a new time and you may feel that you don't have the wisdom, that you don't have the knowledge. You have lifetimes of knowledge and wisdom. It's in your DNA. It's within you. So allow it to flow. Share the wisdom that's through your lineage. Share the stories. You don't need to count on books for everything, basically. While books have information, you have the information. It is literally within you. And then it goes back to the lineage, connecting with your lineage, connecting with the family stories. connecting to how it has been done over decades and decades. But again, it's within your DNA. You know the answer. You know how to do this. You have the wisdom within you. Does that make sense?
Totally. I love that.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel torn in sort of in two, where part of me is like, such a consummate planner and researcher. Like I love nothing more than to research. So for everyone listening, I'm 39 weeks pregnant. So I'm about to give birth any day. And this is my first kid. And I'm surprised at like how little I've actually done of the research, I'm kind of taking it in, and it's really hard to ignore on social media, which is a totally other crazy thing that the algorithm just knows probably before you're pregnant that you're pregnant. But it's been really cool to kind of just like trust that my body kind of knows what it's doing, hopefully knows what it's doing, and we'll also figure it out. The most scary thing I think is running your own business and then stepping away from it and making sure, I have a team that I'm responsible for, their livelihoods, making sure that like they're taken care of and that they're not stressed because I'm leaving, and setting them up for success, and, giving them the right amount of like support and freedom, saying like, I know you can do this and it's all going to be good. But I think that's been the like most scary thing for me. It's less the like, bringing life into this world, and more like, I hope my team's going to be okay in the, whatever number of weeks that I'm going to be off.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. So from the baby lens, yes, you're going to be fine. I remember I was an anthropology major in college, sociology major. Yeah. Cultural anthropology. Like I didn't like do archaeology. And one of my favorite classes was called like childhood or motherhood or something like that in society or something. And we actually read this book on like birthing in different cultures.
Cool.
And it was amazing because it helped me realize how like we in the US make birthing such a medical condition and illness.
Yes.
And in other cultures, it was like, so beautiful, like, it's just a normal thing for the man to be in support of the woman giving birth. And, oh, wait, we squat to pee and poop, but we lie down to give birth. Let's just process that just right there. And yes, I'm not saying that there aren't important things with the technology in terms of, where we are. That's important.
Right. Of course. But it's kind of wild, like how much wisdom we have that we've sort of undone or that we ignore because of quote unquote logic. And now we're finally circling back to a lot of it of like, oh, wait a second. Maybe we don't have like all these interventions. It'll actually be smoother and healthier and safer for everyone, and cheaper actually from a healthcare perspective. It's really interesting. Exactly.
And then for your team, to me, that makes a lot of sense, right? Like that is also your first baby.
Yeah.
Like the company is your first baby, the team, they are your first kids, so wanting them to be set up for success and for you to feel like you can allow them to grow on their own and be able to survive without you. Like it's a great first lesson in releasing control. Truly.
Yeah. It's true. I work with the best people ever on the planet. So like everything's in good hands. Everyone is awesome. And I'm sure you feel this way too in your work and with the people that you work with and manage. But I just want to like do right by them, always. Same thing with clients too, or customers, right? We want to do right by those people. But I sort of like follow the school of Danny Meyer. He's a restaurateur, and he says, number one most important person is my staff. Number two most important people are my customers. Number three most important people are my investors. And I really do feel that way. I feel like it's a really healthy, like cool way to run a business and to run a team.
Yeah. I love that. And you are a planner. I know that everything is together. Everything is together. With that, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, you are literally one of the most like prolific creators that I know. And I mean this like seriously in like a really positive way. Like you create meaningful content.
Thank you.
And from all of the training that you have that is free to the training that you have that is not free, how do you manage everything that like comes through for you? You know,
kind of don't, you know, that's why I make so much stuff. Cause I'm like, I got to get this out of my brain.
Right.
Like this has to go live somewhere.
Yeah.
Like I'm right now, like I really want to teach a copywriting class. I need to get it out of my brain and like into other people's brains so they can go run with it. And I think that's like one of the coolest things is to see some of the seeds that have been planted and see like the community go and sort of fly with them. Like I love seeing people use Notion and build their own Notion courses and classes around it. It's like amazing. But I don't know. I think like a huge part of just the way that I process what I'm going through and experiencing and learning is through making. Like I don't know something, I don't understand something or metabolize something until I've truly processed it. And usually that means slowing down and investigating what it is that I really think. Cause like I have an unconscious knowing a lot of the time, or like like almost a knowing that I take for granted of like, well, of course I believe this, or of course I understand this, or of course this is how the world is. And it isn't until I have to stop and explain it to someone else. And I'm like, wait a second, not everyone thinks that way. And why do I think that? Why do I believe that? What is my evidence or what's my intuition tell me about that? And why? And why is it important? So probably it's just mostly selfish. The reason why I make so much stuff is because I'm trying to muddle through it myself. But what about you? Like you're a content creator. Do you feel the same way?
No, I don't like, thank you for saying I'm a content creator. I don't.
So you are.
I don't feel like I have, I think this is one of the areas I feel like I struggle the most, you know, is feeling like I have enough to say or to offer and to give. And it has been an area of, I'd say, the biggest struggle in terms of how do I share my message? How do I help, you know, the people that I want to help the most? That for me is actually a challenge, and social media being one of my bigger challenges. I think this is one of the reasons why I'm really excited also about the podcast is feeling like I'm not looking at anything. I just get to have really beautiful conversations and know that my intention is that it reaches the right people and that the messages are landing with the right people. And I don't really have awareness and anything to compare against. And I know that sounds really wild because there's gazillion million podcasts out there, but it's just my eyes don't see it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's also not a gazillion podcasts out there.
Mm.
There's a bajillion blogs, a bajillion websites, but there's still like, even if everyone you know has a podcast, it's still not that many people. And I think I read a statistic that most people stop recording their podcast after 3 episodes. So they're kind of just these things that like sort of live as skeletons on the internet without any energy or like life force in them. And I don't know. I think whenever I meet someone who has a podcast and they've been able to keep it up consistently, I'm so impressed. Just like that dedication, because it's not simple. Like it's not easy. As we produce 2 podcasts, really, really time consuming.
Yeah.
And you don't make a lot of money off of it, you know, directly with sponsorships, but you can, oh my God, the way that you connect with people, even if you have a small listenership, it's like, it's invaluable to spend an hour of time with someone. And when do you get that online? You don't get that on Instagram. You don't get that on like, you know, TikTok. You get 15 seconds if you're lucky. So I think this is it's such an amazing platform. And like, what an amazing way to like democratize learning and access to people and these conversations that, I don't know, as, you know, people who have identities who aren't white cis men, like hetero men. Something that like I always was just jealous of was like, how can I hear what you guys are talking about? Like, how do I get in on the conversation? I don't want to like you. I don't necessarily, I'm not jealous. I just want to know what you're talking about, you know, like, and I think that podcasts are a great way to scratch that itch because you really can like get in on conversations that you would just never be privy to, you know? It's cool.
Yeah. That makes sense. That was a really good question. Thank you. That was a really good question. You got me thinking.
I just threw it back at you, you know?
I know. I love it. So I wrote this thing down because I was like, I have to say this because I think it's really important also to hopefully, empower and inspire other people. The one thing I know about you and have noticed about you is that like you are, for as long as I've known you at least, you are like unapologetically you.
That's true.
And
for better or worse. Yeah.
No, I think this is really important. And I think this is something that is a challenge for so many women. And I would just love to know, have you always been like this? And, sort of what was that journey to get to just be cool being you 100%?
I have not always been like this. And I'm glad that it looks like I feel like I'm cool 100% of the time. Or, I'm like letting my freak flag fly always. That's not 100% true, but it is the goal, But I mean, I just grew up as like a super hyper perfectionist, really anxious kid, really sensitive kid, and wanting to be good, and do everything that was good and correct and right. And I started having seizures when I was 17. And I think a really big part of that was like trying to fit into this mold or box. And my soul or my spirit was just like, you're weird. You're not going to fit into this perfect box. Like, no matter how hard you try. And so a lot of my life has been learning that lesson of like, no matter how perfect I am, no matter how quote unquote perfect I am, no matter how I show up, no matter, how well coiffed I am or well spoken or prepared or whatever, there are still going to be people who think whatever they want to think about me, that I'm annoying, that I'm materialistic, that I'm stupid, that I'm a bitch, that I'm not good enough, right? That I'm bad. And I can't control what other people decide to perceive of me, no matter how much I sort of bend and shape myself or contort myself into an image that I hope that they would like. And that's simultaneously horrifying because I can't control other people, but also really liberating because I can't control other people. Mm-hmm. And I might as well just do what's fun and interesting for me because I don't know. I think a lot about the fact that we're just killing time on this planet. We're just here hanging out,
Yeah.
and like basically figuring out things to keep ourselves entertained. I might as well enjoy it,
I am interrupting just for a moment to share with you the free resource that I have for you this season. If you are new to the Life Activated podcast, then I want you to know that every season I have an intention of sharing with you a free resource that is to support you in deepening with the theme of every season. So season 1 was all about reflection, and there is a free meditation available to you to download. You can find that out in the show notes in season 1. You can also find that on Maury Roberts' Life under the podcast section. You'll be able to find that and download that. Feel free. This season, the free resource is an energy healing session. And the energy healing session came about because of you. I went on Instagram, I asked, you voted, and you said you wanted an energy healing session. So this season, as you know, is all about alignment. So the theme around the energy healing is just that, just about alignment. And it is a short and sweet session, but it is definitely powerful. I'll invite you to ensure that you're in a place where you're comfortable and cozy. Don't be driving, trying to listen to this. Be comfortable, be cozy. If you can, lie down, be seated somewhere. Make sure you have some water or tea. Grab a pen and a notebook so that you can take notes after the session for any downloads, messages, just anything that may have come up for you that you want to take note on or journal about, or even draw if you are an artist or a doodle type of person. And I do hope that this energy healing session supports you, gives you clarity and insight, helps you to release what is not serving you in this moment. whenever it is that you are listening to it. Know that you can come back to it at any point whenever you need it. Let me know what you think, how it supports you. I always want to hear from you. Know that it is giving you what it is that you are seeking and needing. And if you feel like it was everything you needed and more, great. If you feel like you would love to go deeper, this is just a great taste of what it's like to work with me, and you want to see what it's like to work further in partnership, reach out. We can talk about what that could look like for you. I'd love to support you. All right. Go to the show notes, download the energy healing. Let me know how it goes. Enjoy the rest of this podcast. Talk to you soon.
Are you like a recovering perfectionist? Because you seem pretty cool with yourself.
I'm still in recovery and still in the process.
It's never ending, right?
It's never ending. It's never ending. But I figured a while ago that like, I'm sure people don't like me. And so once I figured out that like, I'm sure there's people who don't like me, I also got okay with like, I am sure that there are people who talk behind my back. You know,
Yes.
I'm just positive that people are like, oh, there's that Mari chick, or oh, Mari's always smiling, or that laugh, or whatever, you know, like,
Right.
I am sure of it. But I'm also in the corporate world still. So then there's that struggle of, you know, what my brain, I've got to be professional, you know.
Right.
I think part of having my business and being on social media has helped me work on breaking feeling like I have to be perfect, you know, and so polished and professional, because I like, that's not also how people are every day. You
Right.
know?
Well, it's not relatable either, right?
Like it's not real life.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's Brene Brown has written about it at some point or whatever, one of those people, but like, we want to be like, whatever, the most perfect, everything, I's dotted, T's crossed. But if you're like that, then there's no way for someone to get in. There's no crack to like sort of climb in and understand and be vulnerable together. It hurts everyone. No one wins if you're so obsessed with like coming off the right way.
You said that part, and what made me actually, I also blame everything on my Capricorn moon for perfectionism. Once I realized it was a Capricorn moon, I was like, is that where all my problems come from?
I have a soft spot in my heart for all Capricorn things. I love a Capricorn, but that might be my Saturn and Jupiter Capricorn talking. So I don't know.
Yeah. There is always sort of I need to know the process. And I think that is a challenge and an opportunity. And for the work that I do, and for even just working to grow in my business and in my gifts, part of it is letting go of the needing to know the process.
Right.
Because sometimes I can't know the process.
Well, yeah, especially like with intuitive work. I mean, the more I try to logic my way around an answer that I'm getting for someone, the more I'm like, the more lost I am. And usually when I'm like, okay, this is embarrassing, I don't really know what this means. Do you know what it means? That's when that's the like good stuff, you know, the really like interesting, meaningful part of intuitive work.
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, you know, you're not going to get a process. You just have to like trust this feeling that you're having, letting it go.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious, because this is also what I work with my clients on, like trusting yourself more, you know, and leaning into trusting yourself more. And then this is also a human struggle that I also go through, you know.
Well, that's the best teachers are the ones who struggle, you know, who've really, I was a professional dancer for a large part of my life. And the best teachers I had were the ones who were not the most innately gifted. They were the ones who really had to like learn how to master, you know, quadruple pirouette or to do that sort of floor work. They were the ones who were like grinding and figuring it out. And they could give me, you know, the tricks and the codes, the best coaching, as opposed to like whatever, a principal dancer at a major ballet organization they always gave the worst classes because they'd be like, I don't know, you just do it. Like,
Yeah,
it's just
it's like natural.
I'm like, what's that like?
Yeah.
Nothing's ever come naturally to me before. All I do is try. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, what must that be like? It must be nice.
So funny. Oh my gosh. So this season, I'm talking about align. Part of the process I take my clients through is sort of 3-part process is reflect, align, design. And so I would love to know from you in sort of this alignment piece, when do you know when you're really just not in alignment?
Oh, that's a really good question. Well, I would say for me, it's when I'm emotional, not like when I have emotions, but when I get very frustrated, because resistance is normal. Like, resistance doesn't mean that you're out of alignment for me. And it never has meant that in my creative process. It's awesome when there's not resistance and when things flow out of me. But sometimes, like, I really need to wrestle with my work and my words and what I'm sort of like, I don't know, birthing into the world, I guess. So yeah, I think that for me, the alignment, I know I'm out of alignment when I feel really frustrated or on edge, and I take that out on other people, or I take it out on myself, right? When I'm just impatient. That lack of patience is when I'm like, time to reel it in, Pellizzon. Like, let's figure out what's going on here. Cause it also just doesn't feel good. Like, I know I can't make anything good from that place. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Totally. Do you ever notice, like, if it's just sort of that piece, or does it start to show also, like, for you physically, or do you know if it's like started showing physically and you just didn't even notice it until it gets to you're super frustrated?
That's a good question. Yeah. Normally I'm out of alignment when I notice I'm getting frustrated. Some other things that happen are that I'm not taking enough time to let my brain rest and take in information. Like, I'm sort of just in reaction mode, like, replying to emails back and forth, or making things, or on deadline and constantly running up to a deadline, as opposed to like having some spaciousness to read, or to, like, as silly as it sounds, like go on a walk, or even take 10 minutes to journal, or to pull a card when I'm going like back to back to back. And I think that's something that we at Holisticism try not to do. Like, we only schedule meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays so that we're not running back to back all the time, and we have some more space in our days. Yeah. But physically, I mean, I have ADHD. So that's something that when I'm medicated, that really helps me with alignment. Because it helps me prioritize, and it often gives me clarity that I don't always have on my own. And I haven't been medicated for the last 9 months. So it's been really interesting to see how much harder I have to work in every aspect of my life to stay on track. Like, I have to eat well. I have to wake up at the right time. I have to go to bed at the right time. I have to speak to myself kindly. I have to get dressed in the morning. If I don't, the day is ruined. And it's so interesting, like, how many guardrails I basically have to keep up for myself and how much energy I have to exert just to stay on track, versus when I have, like, this aid on my side. And that's good to know, right? I know I can function without it. It just takes more energy for me. And it's neither good nor bad. It just is.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's awareness to also kind of, just awareness. Like, that's, I think, the biggest key. And then I think the other question I would ask is, when you know that you have to have those additional guardrails, asking or getting that support to help with those guardrails.
Yeah, exactly. And just being a little bit even more like ears up of like, okay, is everything right? A little bit more, focused or attentive maybe. And again, that's not a bad thing. And it's really important sometimes. I think we like take for granted when things are going well. And that's when we kind of can like get off track or sort of veer off of our path of alignment, and sort of slowly, kind of like a boat or ship in the night, when it's just like a little bit off. And then we wake up the next morning or a couple months later or a year later and we're like, whoa, how did I like really go in the wrong direction? It didn't just happen, something that happened or a crazy left-hand turn. It's been accumulating over time.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like how my soul suck job was,
Yeah.
It was like, I didn't listen to the red flags that were like super duper early on.
Yep.
And I allowed, other people's rationalization of that corporate company to like, oh, that person's a super senior person. They don't have time to do that thing. But my red flag beer was like, well, that's a pretty big, important initiative. I would think that senior leader would have a point of view on something like
Right.
that, and I just let it go. And then, other little things kind of happened and happened and happened and happened. And then,
right. Then you have like some emotional experience or like, moment of highest tension. But like, also, do you think that when you have those little red flags that you kind of ignore over time, you get like immunized to them, or you get sort of like numb to them? Like,
yeah.
Part of you gets cut off too. I don't know. That's
totally
how it feels for me. Yeah.
Totally. I mean, by the time it was all said and done, I was like I was numb. I talk about this in like that first episode. It was like, I was numb. I was like disconnected from myself. I was disconnected from my friends and my family. I didn't really want to talk to my friends, because I didn't have the energy, but I also just was not a happy human being. And I didn't want, it wasn't even that I didn't want them to know. I just didn't even have like the energy to give.
Yeah. Or to talk about it. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it more.
Yeah.
I don't want to dwell on it more. Like, it is what it is.
My life
resignation.
is miserable.
Yeah.
Life sucks right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, some people like really relate, they commiserate. That's the only way they know how to relate, is like, my life's miserable. My life is too. Or we feel like the opposite. Oh my God, everyone else is doing so much better and everyone likes their lives. I'm just going to like wallow in my misery over here.
Yeah.
By myself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think part of it was too, like, if I really think about it, it's like that mixture of also like feeling also like, I don't want to, like, sitting here thinking about this for a second here is like failure. Also, I feel like I have the weight of the world on my shoulders, but I also feel like a burden. Like,
yeah,
what? That's like a crazy, like, mixture of things.
Yeah.
How can you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders and you're responsible, but you also feel like a burden?
Yes. Well, I mean, like, that isn't that very common and highly capable women and non-binary people.
Yeah.
Are used to taking care of themselves all the time and not having other people take care of them.
Yeah. So wild. So wild. Couple more questions for you. What about your passions over the years have changed?
Oh my God. I mean, they're constantly changing. I'm always doing something new. I'm always like, okay, this is the level of insanity that I live at. I have been creating this Notion document. I'm about to go on maternity leave. And inside of this Notion document, I have all these things, these trainings I want to do. Like all these classes. I like want to take this wine sommelier class because I'm like obsessed with becoming a sommelier.
Ooh.
Not for like work, just because like I think it would be cool. And,
it will be. Yeah.
Right. And then a certified financial planner. But there's this other type of certified financial planning that's like much more forward thinking and progressive. And it includes like same-sex marriage and the emotional, response and psychology around money. And you get the same thing as a certified financial planner at the end of the day, blah, blah, blah. All these things where I'm like, reasonably, this is not going to happen. I'm not going on vacation. I'm taking care of a human being for the first time ever. I'm not going to have like downtime, but I'm like, but maybe I will. I don't know. Like, what if he sleeps all the time? And
maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of how my life is. I mean, I kind of go really hard on something and get obsessed with it and sort of go for it until it's no longer my undying passion. Mm-hmm. And then I find a new thing. But usually, I used to really not like that about myself. I thought it was like, I'm just so extreme, such an extreme person. I can't just run a 5K. I have to run a marathon and then an ultra marathon and then every marathon or, I can't just read one book. I have to read 100 books in a challenge over a year. And I know now that that's kind of my brain chemistry, but it's also, I'm always distilling what I take in. And it kind of, like I said, it always applies to my work. Like to what I'm working through or going through. So my passions have changed and have varied over time, but I think the way that I look at them as lessons is the through line, or the lessons I try to pull from them. And the way that I try to connect all of them together in this big spider web is what gives me permission to like keep flying after them, not always relate them to work or my job, just being a person, you know?
Yes. And I love that. And I think that's a really important reminder. It's like, and something I really want to continue to call out is our passions don't have to be the thing that makes us money. Our passions can just be the things that lights us up, and it still is our purpose, because I think we forget that so often. I don't want you to be listening to this podcast, whoever you are, not realizing that it doesn't matter what it is. You don't have to hold yourself back from doing it because you think that it's not going to make you money or that someone is not going to understand. Like Michelle wants to be a sommelier and she's probably going to be a sommelier and she may never use it, but it's going to light her up and it's going to light her soul up because that is her purpose in that moment. And that is all that matters, you know? So that is, if anything, permission to follow your passion and to not sit on it.
Yeah, I think like following your passions makes you more yourself, right?
Yes.
Not a rounding down or a reducing down, but an expanding of. You're feeling out into the world to find your own edges and dimensions. I think that's what we're constantly doing all the time in our relationships and the things that we buy and what we, consume. And the better you know yourself, the more you self-actualize, the better you can do your sacred work, capital S, capital W. And that may or may not be the work that you're doing right now, but it sure as hell is important. And yeah, and finding joy too, like finding joy and not monetizing every single thing that we do. It can be really hard in the world of capitalism, where it is told to us that we need to be easy to understand and marketable, and our skills have to make sense together. And we have to be a package that people can relate to in, 2 seconds. I don't want to be understood in 2 seconds. It's impossible to understand me in 2 seconds or 5 minutes or an hour. Like, you're just getting the tip of the iceberg because I'm a dynamic and multifaceted person. I'm complex and I deserve, and I think we all deserve to be that. Like,
yes,
as opposed to reduced down and easy to digest. I would rather you choke on me,
Yeah. Yeah. Hello, preach. Yeah. 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 But it's true, right? It's like that good reminder. So this last question for you, how do you show yourself grace? And the reason I want to know this is because, again, it's one of those other areas where, and I think it shows up in even our conversation throughout today, we've had these moments of like, judgment, even, on ourselves. How do you show yourself grace with all the things that can be going on in your world, in your life right now? How do you have moments of grace for yourself?
That's a good question. I find myself saying a lot, the most important things will get done. What matters the most will get done. I really, at this point, trust myself a lot. And that took a really long time and a lot of therapy to trust myself and trust that like I've got my own back and that I won't abandon myself. So I think that I, at this point, can say like, yes, I have, an overactive brain that wants to do a million things. And I have these like big goals and dreams. And, I may or may not follow through with them, but the most important stuff will get done. And like, the reason I'm here is to enjoy and is to live and to have experiences. And it's not to sit behind a computer and grind away at work and, be whatever, what someone else on the internet, a stranger on the internet thinks I should be. And I'm really lucky that I have a partner who like reminds me often, and where we have a situation where we often are reminded that like life is very short and there are just so many things that aren't worth giving up. It's not worth it to give up our time together so I can stress over a work deadline. That's just not worth it to me. It's not worth it for us to miss the beginning of our child's life to scramble back to work. Like that's, work might take, a back seat and it might even actually, the business might suffer a little bit, but at the end of the day, what's most important is like that I'm here for myself and my family. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does.
I think that's something I have to just remind myself of a lot to give myself some grace.
Yeah. Yeah. I literally have a sticky on my wall that's like, give yourself, like, I think it says give yourself grace or something grace. I'm pretty sure it says give yourself grace. It's in gold. It's a green sticky with gold. I have to like find it. But yeah, it's something I see every single day because it's just one of those things that it's hard to remember to do is finding the grace for ourselves. We are still human.
Yeah, and high achieving humans. Like, look at you and everything that you've accomplished. It wasn't like an accident. You didn't trip into this life that you've created, and that like you worked hard for it and diligently towards it, and you're gifted and talented. And I think there's a level of discipline and rigor that comes with that if we're living those types of lives, and that is really good, in some ways, and can also be, of course, like our downfall or the thing that holds us back the most. But another thing I think about is I always get what I want. I always get what I want. And if I don't have what I want yet, it just means that the story is not over or that I don't actually want that thing that badly. So I always get what I want. And sometimes that means I need to get clear for myself, truly, what is it that my soul and my heart wants?
I love that. I used to always say from like corporate job standpoint that I can always find another job.
Yes.
Like legit.
Absolutely.
If it's a job I don't like, I can still get a job. Like I can always get a job.
I mean, I say that to myself running my own business of like, if this all fails tomorrow, I know how to fold yoga pants. Like I can go do that. And I know that that's, I know I can go get another job. And I know that that's a privilege, to be able to say that. But it does also give you, I think, some freedom of like, right, I don't have to do this, and I'll be okay if things fail. Like, and I will fail and it'll be fine. I've got this.
Oh, Michelle, this has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored, and I'm so like, what a cool full circle moment to be talking on your podcast.
I mean, seriously, thank you. And truly, it's an honor to have you here to share your wisdom with everyone. And if you wouldn't mind just telling everyone, where can they find you? What do you want everyone to know about you and how to get in touch and work with you?
Yeah, you can find me at holisticism.com or on Holisticism's Instagram. And we have a great podcast called The 12th House. That's a great spot to get started to learn a little bit more about what we do and what we offer. And then we have an amazing free community hub with like 7,000 members in it called the Holisticism Hub. And that's where I teach free classes. So we offer a lot of content for free, and it's important to us. So if you want in on that stuff, then take advantage of it.
It's amazing. Okay, Michelle, we will talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. All right, we'll talk soon, everyone.
All right, that does it for this episode of the Life Activated podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Please do subscribe to the show, rank and review the podcast. 5-star reviews go a long way. Let me know that you've done so. Send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram with a screenshot, and I will personally reach out to you to thank you. Send me a message letting me know what you think about the show, and definitely check out the show notes for additional resources to support you with this season.